All right, everybody, welcome back. All right, a question I get asked a lot is, how do I build a lot of chops and how do I play real fast? So today we're gonna break it down. I'm gonna give you all the secrets, and there's not a whole lot of secrets. There's only two. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about the two secrets of how to play really fast. I'm gonna walk you through how to play really fast runs, and then at the end of the video, I'll just give you a bunch of exercises to work on in case you don't have any. Let's get started. All right, whenever my students ask me, how do I play really fast? I feel a bit like Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid, the original, not the remake. Daniel-san, if you want to play fast, you must first learn to play slow. Hey! So here's the number one secret, okay? Use piston strokes. In fact, if you don't watch the rest of this video and you can only take one thing away from this video, it would be to use piston strokes, okay? That's the number one problem I see when people play. So let's review. What is a piston stroke? When you hit the bar, if your mallet immediately comes back up with no pause or hesitation at the bottom, and it comes back up at the same speed in which it went down, that is a piston stroke. Let's check it out. Okay, a lot of young players, they do what are called downstrokes, which is they throw the mallet down and there's a pause, and then they bring it back up. That looks like this. Okay, now this is actually the number one thing that prevents them from getting fast, because what happens is the muscle memory gets used to locking the stick down before it initiates the pullback. And as students try to play their runs faster and faster and faster, their hands keep locking down in that position and they hit like a brick wall with how fast they can play. Okay, here's an example with the first part of the green scale. I'll do it first with piston strokes and then with downstrokes. So as you can see with the piston strokes, the mallet's rebounded right back up. In fact, at this speed, the mallet will come back and meet the other one before that one even starts to go down. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is practice scales and exercises very slowly and make sure that's happening. A lot of my students, they don't believe me when I tell them that they're downstroking. I'm like, hey, you're pausing that mallet before you bring it back up. And they're like, no, I'm not. I'm like, yeah, you are. And they don't believe me, so I'll get out my iPhone and I'll put it on slow-mo and I'll like record them playing and then play it back. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess I am. So a lot of people, they don't know that they're doing it. So either have a mirror or have some sort of camera or phone or a buddy to watch your sticks and make sure that you're pulling them back immediately after they come down with no break at the bottom. All right, now secret number two is to get a metronome. Metronomes are so important to becoming a better percussionist, not just because they build good time, and not just because they keep you honest, but more importantly, from my perspective, is that they allow you to track your progress over time. This is really important because when you first start working on speed, you're gonna make like huge gains every day, like 5 to maybe even 10 beats a minute per day. You're gonna get faster. And then once you hit maybe around 140, 150 beats a minute, if you're doing 16th notes, for example, you're gonna hit like a massive slowdown. And at that point, you might only gain 2 or 3 beats a minute per day. And then once you get really fast, you might only be making 2 or 3 beats a minute per week progress. And that's with practicing every day. Okay. So once you get to that point, if you're not using a metronome, you're probably not pushing yourself very hard. But even if you are, you're not really gonna have, you're not gonna know how much you're growing and how much you're progressing. Okay, so get a metronome and use it. When I was a kid, we had to buy metronomes. So I got the Korg MA30, great metronome by the way, they still sell it. It cost me like $35. Okay, nowadays you can go on the App Store and download one for free on your phone. Or they even have, if you don't have a smartphone, you can go to some website and be like, free metronome, and there'll be one that loads up on your laptop or tablet or something. So they're totally free. There's no excuse not to have a metronome. Okay, go get one. I happen to highly recommend the app Tempo. and tempo advanced, because I think those do a great job of emulating the Korg MA30, which is my favorite metronome. And tempo advanced lets you do all sorts of like weird time signatures and polyrhythms. It's very neat, especially when you're learning marimba literature that has like very strange time signatures. So I recommend getting one or both of those. I think they're $2 or $3 on the App Store. All right, so let's assume that you have fixed your stroke, you have really beautiful and excellent technique, and you're ready to start learning some fast runs. Okay, there's two main methods of learning a run. Okay, method number one, I like to call the tortoise, and method number two is the hare. We're gonna take this B flat run right here. All right, now using the tortoise method, you play the entire run very slowly with the metronome, and then every so often bump it up a few beats a minute. So you may start somewhere around 60 beats a minute. I have it on 120, so it's going to count my eighth note for me. I'm just going to go nice and slow, focus on good sound quality. And then after doing that for a while and making sure that's absolutely perfect, I'm just going to bump it up 3 or 4 beats a minute. And eventually, before you know it, you're doing it insanely fast. All right, so in my opinion, the tortoise method takes the longest, but it's also, in my opinion, the best if you have the time to do it. Like, it takes a long time to go from very, very slow to very fast, but it's good for building chops. It's good for working out your dynamics and your phrasing because you're playing the entire run the whole time. It's great for burning it into your long-term memory because you're gonna play the thing so many times that by the time you come back to the practice room the next day, you're still gonna remember the run. On the downside, it takes a while to do that. So if you're at a gig and they give you a piece of music and they're like, okay, in 20 minutes, you have this solo, and it's a mind-blowing run, you're not gonna have time to do that. All right, so that's when you use method number 2, the hare method. All right, so the hare method is you put your metronome on the speed that you wanna end up at, but you take the run in very, very small chunks. So like one group of 16th notes at a time. And you keep building and adding on to it until you have the whole thing. That looks something like this. Okay, so as you can see, there's one rough part of the run right here when I go F, G, A. Sometimes I have a tendency to go F, F, A or G, G, A instead of F, G, A. So fix that immediately before you go on to the rest of the run. Okay, get that part down and then move on. Okay, now in all fairness, I did practice this a bunch before I started filming, but I'll show you like the 3 really tough spots that I had, okay? The first tough spot that I had in this particular run is the second time you hit E flat, I had a tendency to ghost that note like this. And that's because my left hand's jumping between the upper and lower bars a lot. So if you're ghosting a note, the easiest thing to do to fix it is to accent it. And then go back to normal. That way the sound quality stays the same, okay? I still occasionally hit the F twice. That's just a tendency of the run. And the other turnaround point here is when it goes to the E flat, F up to the B flat. This hand's jumping so far, sometimes it would miss the second E flat. So once again, if you accent that note for a while, it really emphasizes your muscle memory, and then you can continue. But here's the tough part about the hair method. You have to fix these things immediately when they happen. Like, so if you make that mistake, but you just keep moving on with the rest of the run, that mistake is gonna burn into your muscle memory. So this method takes a lot of discipline and a really good ear to hear those mistakes and fix them before you add in the next chunk. All right, so here's what I like about this method. It's fast. I mean, you can learn the run very quickly, and you learn it at tempo, okay? And if you have really good technique, it's not gonna hurt and it's not gonna burn. If it is hurting and burning, you need to slow the metronome down a little bit. However, there's a lot of disadvantages to this method, which is that number one, if you make a mistake, but you keep repping it like that, you're gonna burn the mistake in your brain. Number two, it kind of locks you into one tempo. So if you get into the rehearsal and it says 170 and you're like, all right, I got it. And the conductor's like, all right, we're gonna play it at 120 today. You are going to rush that run. Like, there's a 100% certainty that you're gonna rush it because you only practiced it at 170. Whereas with the tortoise method, you practice it at everything from 60 to 170. So you've got everything covered. You can play it at any speed you want very comfortably. If you only learn it at 170, your hands are gonna wanna go 170, even if the conductor's not. Okay, it's also much harder to work on phrasing using this method because you're not playing the entire phrase. You're only playing one little chunk at a time. So you really have to keep in mind how soft you want to start and how loud you want to end up and make sure that that happens gradually. Otherwise, by the time you learn the run, you'll realize you're just playing it all loud. Okay, so if you want to phrase it a particular way, build that into the learning process. That takes a lot of discipline. Okay, and the last disadvantage of this method is it's really exhausting. Physically, if you don't have the chops, it's exhausting, but mentally, it takes a lot of focus to play and be like, nope, that note's ghosted. Nope, I hit that F twice. No, the E flat, I kind of skimmed it that last time. Like, it takes a lot of mental focus to catch those things as they happen and fix them. Otherwise, you're gonna burn them into your muscle memory and they're gonna be permanent. All right, let's talk for a minute about the hardest run that there is. The hardest run that there is the C scale. It's the easiest to learn, but it's the hardest to play fast without missing notes because they're all right next to each other. A lot of the movement is in your hips and not in your hands. It's so difficult to play fast. Okay, but there's a couple things you can do to help you out. Okay, the most important thing is to give your eyes things to look at. So I'm gonna play a 2-octave C scale and I'm gonna accent every 4 beats. So I am only looking and listening to this. So it gives you a lot less to focus on. You can just focus on hitting those notes. And even if you flub a little bit in between, as long as you hit those checkpoints, you're gonna be roughly in the right place. You'll probably miss a few notes, but the run won't completely explode. Most people won't even be able to tell that you missed some notes. Okay, so put in those accents and then take them out. And then put them back in and then take them out. Let's try it, I don't know. Let's try it at 140. It's probably too fast, but whatever. Now with no accent. As you get faster, it's going to be harder and harder to accent. So you can just do your best, or you can even break it down in the hair method and do one chunk at a time. So let's put it back at 170. Okay, that was a disaster. I missed like 100 notes. So we're gonna break it down and do one group at a time. famous like 1 right in here. Okay, so break it down like that. Use your hips and pray. For that run, you just got to pray. Once you get over 140, you might hit it, you might not. All right, let's talk about some exercises that are good for building chops. You want to start out your warm-up routine with something that just gets your hands moving. So here's a few. One of them is called Summertime. It's in the book Up Front by Jim Casella and Jim Ancona. Highly recommend it. A lot of people play this exercise. It's quite popular. It sounds like this. Another one from that book is just a simple 8 on a hand type exercise. And that one's really good for working on your piston strokes and getting a nice solid sound down the keyboard. Sounds like this. Another one is one I put back on the website a while ago. It's called Bones. I don't actually know who wrote it. I just know that the Crossmen played it for years. But it goes up in different arpeggios. It sounds really neat. Here's Bones. All right, and the last one in this category is called PM. I wrote it on Crossmen Tour back in 2004, and it goes through lots of different intervals, and it's actually my favorite one to warm up with because it gives your arms something to do, and it covers a very wide range of the keyboard. All right, after you get that down, you want to start working on your scales. And if you don't know your scales, I would just learn all your scales in 2 octaves first. Go very slow, use the piston stroke, like epically slow piston strokes, all your scales 2 octaves. And then after you do that, you can start doing like more scale exercises. So a very popular one is called the Green Scales, named after the Green brothers, who had a Xylophone method book that's it used to be pretty popular. I'm not sure how popular it is today. It's called Instruction Course for Xylophone. But everybody uses this same exercise. It's just called Green Scales. Here are a couple more that are pretty popular as well. So it really doesn't matter what scale exercises that you practice, as long as you're using really good technique. I mean, just change exercises when you get bored. or when you hit like a plateau and you can't go any farther, switch to a different one. But you don't have to learn them all immediately. Just stick with like one exercise that works 8th notes in parallel, and stick with one kind of scale or scale exercise to work your flexibility. All right, everybody, as a bonus, I'm going to see how fast I can play that run from earlier in the episode, the B flat run. We'll just see how far it goes. Here's 170. $180. Ooh, missed that. It's 190. All right, now we hit 200. Now at this point, I'm probably gonna start missing some notes. So if I do, I'm gonna break it down into those smaller chunks to kind of fix whatever is going wrong, and then add them back in. It's 200. So if I was going to perform at that tempo, I still got quite a ways to go. Anyway, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Please send me any questions or comments. The reason why I stuck with 2 mallets today is because the same principles apply for mallets, snare drum, and 4 mallets. In fact, if you've seen Bill Bachman's Get Good Quick plan, he's I'm out of breath after all that. Sorry. If you've seen Bill Bachman's Get Good Quick plan, he talks about that. He talks about using the piston strokes and going slow and working your way up with a metronome. And that is the best and fastest and most efficient way to build chops and to get good quick. And he knows what he's talking about. He's the man. If you don't know who Bill Bachman is, go Google Bill Bachman. Amazing tenor player. All right, everybody, take care.